Hey there, Cheese here, and welcome back to the Mega Man Screwed to -1 Kirby Challenge. This time we're taking on Plant Man with the Flame Shield. Much like any shield weapon, the Flame Shield isn't exactly conned on your resources. So I'll need to settle on some places to conserve ammo, even if these grasshoppers are a bit of a pain in the tail if you just let them be. Thankfully, there are a good few places I can pick ammo up in this segment, so we will be seeing the Flame Shield in action. Like right now. The Flame Shield does a pretty good job filling in the role of a shield weapon. It blocks projectiles, it kills enemies, and you can disperse it with a surprisingly powerful effect. Much more impressive than getting rid of any other shield, that's for certain. Press the button a second time after you summoned it, and you'll shoot 5 of those little fragments forward. And each one does a pretty good chunk of damage. The strength of the Flame Shield definitely lies in its raw power when you dispel it, but it holds up fairly nicely while you're wearing it too. As with most shields, it'll stick around until you either dispel it or you run into an enemy that it can't kill or can only barely kill with the power that it has. And that's somewhere around a charge shot, maybe a little less. Any enemies that it can kill with ease, you can just plow right through them without even having to refresh the shield. Which is what's going on right here, and it's a nice way of restocking on ammo, if you can find a good place to respawn one of these bugs over and over. Now, I know I said I didn't want to rely on luck, and, well, technically I'm not. I mean, I'm not spending ammo doing this, there's no risk involved, I'm never going to run out of ammo, it's really a test of patience, not luck. Because, well, sometimes it can take a while for the ammo to show up. Now you might be wondering, was that really necessary? Couldn't you have just not used the Flame Shield up to this point? And the answer is that is entirely correct. However, I wanted to show off the Flame Shield's strengths before we get to this part of the stage, which does not play towards the Flame Shield's strengths at all. Plant Man's new stage gimmick is a bunch of blocks that you have to power your way through, or over. Normally, you'd keep on eating away at the wall in front of you with Buster shots, or Flame Shield shots, or Milk Spray shots, or what have you. The blocks would be destroyed, and oddly enough, the projectiles would all rebound and destroy any blocks on their way up, which is slightly... I don't know if that was intentional, but it's strange, and I don't mind it. It makes things easier. Naturally, the Flame Shield doesn't fare too well here, considering 1, it has very low ammo, 2, it starts out not as a projectile, but as something circling you, and you also have to fire it pretty quickly in midair if you're going to get any shots off at all. Otherwise, the block that you're standing on is just going to go away and you'll have wasted that shot pretty poorly. By the way, I ran into this jump exactly once during practice attempts, and I pulled it off on the first shot. I thought it was an easy jump. It's not an easy jump. Let's use Rush. And needless to say, this took some time to plan my way through. I can at least say it went a lot smoother once I realized I could just rush coil over the whole first part. Thankfully, by skipping a large portion of the stage, we are able to have actually just a tiny bit of leeway here at the end. Ended up wasting 2 shots there because I was trying to dispel the first shot, which already went kaput, and the second one went kaput. This spot right here is the first place in the stage where I can actually respawn one of these bugs without losing my Flame Shield since the last time I restocked. And they're spaced just far enough apart that this is still possible. We're pretty close to the end of the stage too, thankfully, so one last mandatory ammo grind later. And we're off to pay Plant Man a visit. Plant Man, I think his battle will really speak for itself, but I'll still help translate. Somehow or other, Plant Man has found a ride armor from the X series a little early, and he's fighting you over a pit of death spikes. Your starting platform disappears pretty quickly, so these tiny moving platforms are all you have to stand on. Thankfully, Plant Man doesn't do much damage with his attacks, but really it's not like he needs to. The entire threat here is the instant death floor. I suppose the strategy is really just throwing out those punches to try and interrupt your charge shots, just to make the battle take longer, if you're not using his weakness, that is, and give you more time to slip up and die. It's smart, but I don't like being on the receiving end of it. It's frustrating, honestly. Thankfully, we do have his weakness, and even more thankfully, the stage we find his weakness in, there's also an optional item called the Spike Guard, which makes you just take lots of damage from spikes instead of them being an instant kill. Which, really, if I have the choice, I never fight Plant Man without it. I'm trying to pick up as few upgrades on this run of the game as I can, though. Don't know if I've mentioned that yet. Anyway, Plant Man's finally down by now. So, what weapon do we get from Plant Man? Well, we've already had his weapon once, why go with that? We apparently get his Ride Armor's weapon instead. We get the Robo Punch. And Rush Jet, which is a nice touch. Anyway, we'll be demonstrating Robo Punch later on. Until then, this has been Cheese. Take care.